Good morning. I'm Kent Garrett. Welcome to another edition of Resist, where we present independent journalism for independent viewers. This morning we have a piece from Chuck Todd on the man who cried war.
Now I want to move to Iran. Over the weekend, some of you may have seen a social video that I put out there. Just sort of, it was one of those, he's doing it again. You know, he's bloviating on Thursday. You know, if you listen, if you saw it, apparently the United States, right, once again, he spoke to Axios and he told Axios, major escalation in Iran is on its way. Here it comes. And you're like, oh, here he goes again. This is the boy who cried war, right? Instead of the boy who cried wolf. And his rhetoric is, my God, we know it's meaningless, but he's somehow making it less meaningful with every utterance he makes about Iran. He keeps using civilization-ending rhetoric only to back away. The guy eats tacos now every day. It ain't just Taco Tuesday. Because less than 12 hours after he once again made some over-the-top threat at the Iranians, he halted the new strikes. So here's the larger problem this has created. He has completely cheapened presidential rhetoric. And yes, you could say, oh, geez, that happened, you know, at his inaugural address when he sort of created this dystopian view of the world where George W. Bush was caught on a hot mic saying that was some crazy shit. Yeah, I think former President Bush was speaking for all of us when he used the word carnage and all that sort of garbage. So we know that Trump's presidential rhetoric has been garbage and carnage, if you will, from the get-go. But my goodness, has he cheapened it. And this harms it, right? Nobody can take the president's word to mean anything, you know? And that's the thing. It's not because every threat is false, but nobody knows which threat is real. And now markets discount it, allies discount it, adversaries discount it. He's cried war so many times, people no longer know what deserves attention. And here's the bigger issue. Why is he doing this? He's completely out of ideas on Iran. The air campaign didn't produce the outcome he wanted, right? That was the shortcut he wanted to take here. The economic pressure has not produced the outcome he wanted, the blockade. The financial inducements, i.e. bribery of Iranian officials, hasn't produced the outcome that he wanted. And he's stuck. What's left? He's totally in a box. He's out of ideas. Because all he has left is full-scale war and regime change. And he doesn't have the political capital to do that. So he's stuck. And ironically, him being stuck has only strengthened Iran's position more than it weakened it. And speaking of strengthening Iran, let's talk about pretty much the dumbest thing an American president has now done this century. And this is over and above starting the Iraq war in search of WMB that didn't exist, and over and above starting the Iran war. That in theory was to prevent nuclear proliferation, right? And in some ways, why did we go to war with Iraq? Worried about WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. In theory, nuclear proliferation. So what does the United States do? Basically say, we're going to help Saudi Arabia start a nuclear program. Does that not undermine the entire rationale for pretty much the entire foreign policy of the United States of the last 20 years in the Middle East? Honestly, for 40 years, the American Middle East policy is we've really had one central principle beyond defending Israel: preventing nuclear proliferation, preventing a Middle East arms race, right? Preventing Iran from getting the bomb was to make sure Saudis didn't think they had to get the bomb, and to make sure the Egyptians didn't think so, and you name it. And now the United States is facilitating a civilian nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia. And I get it. The administration's answer might be, hey, better we supervise it than letting the Saudis run to China or Russia or use bad technology from Pakistan to do it. It's a legitimate argument. I'm not going to discount it. But if that's your argument, then you have to answer this. How do you explain denying Iran a similar civilian framework under even tougher inspections? Sit on that for a minute. Because whether you support the Saudi agreement or not, it fundamentally changes the entire logic we've used to justify 40 years of Iran policy, let alone our policies in Iraq. This is just insanity to me. And again, I accept the argument. I'm not saying I fully agree with it. I accept the premise if your argument is, hey, this cat's out of the bag. If we don't help them, they'll just do what everybody else has done over the last 20 years, which is go bribe rogue nuclear scientists in Pakistan, right? That's how North Korea started it. It's how the Iranians worked, right? The Pakistanis have not been very secure with their nuclear knowledge and their technology, and it has certainly helped spread and proliferate nuclear weapons and nuclear programs around the world. But if the United States is now going to actively nuclearize a country like Saudi Arabia, then who are we to tell the Iranians no? Who are we to tell anybody no? And we're going to do this? Look, we've already looked the other way with the Israelis on nuclear proliferation. I mean, good grief. And look, I get it. I'm not going to sling I'm with most people where I assume there's some sort of financial gain that Trump and his family and cronies are going to have out of this, that may have accelerated this. But if you were going to do this, then why bother starting the Iran war? What the hell were you thinking?
That was a report from Chuck Todd. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Resist, where we bring you independent journalism for independent viewers. Talk to you next time.